Every Christmas, my family has the tradition of making clam chowder and getting together. So I thought I would leave this recipe for anybody that's interested. Now, a good recipe is going to have pre-measured amounts from people who actually know what they're doing. I don't really measure anything out, but it should hopefully work out pretty well. Just use your best judgment, I suppose. Just use as much as needed. So first off, we've got the clams. I got this good sized 2-pack here from Costco for like $15. If we're having a large family gathering, we'd probably use both of them. But for just here at home, to get several meals out of it, I'll be using one of them. I can save the other one for later. If you don't like clams, you can actually leave them out, and you're still left with some pretty good potato soup. Secondly, you have your milk base. I like to use condensed milk. It's creamier than regular milk. My sister likes to use heavy cream, like for making butter or whipped cream, because that's even creamier yet, but that's also more fattening, so the condensed milk is a good compromise of the two. Next, you're going to need a thickener because the milk alone isn't going to thicken it enough by itself. Now, cornstarch and flour are the two most popular thickeners, for making, stews and gravies and stuff. But personally, I like to use mashed potato mix. It's kind of cheating, but it's easier to work with. You don't actually have to boil the chowder to use the potatoes. And it's more consistent. Like, when it cools down, it's going to be just as thick as when it was hot. So that's always nice. I actually picked this up from a friend because their family has some people with wheat allergies and somebody with a corn allergy. So they use potatoes instead and everybody wins. Then you're also going to want some bacon. And of course, potatoes. And if I recall, we actually used to use celery, but that's also optional. And I don't have any celery to use anyway, so I'll be omitting it. So anyway, let's get started on the actual preparation. Over here on the stove, I have 2 pots heating up. You can do all of them in one, but this will be a little bit faster so I can cook things simultaneously. The smaller silver pot will be used to cook the bacon, while the large purple one is going to be used to boil the potatoes. So, over here we've got the bacon on a cutting board. Just slice some nice bite-sized chunks. Need a sharper knife. So we're getting some pretty large chunks out of this bacon, but they will of course reduce in size once they cook for a while. The bacon's been cooking for about 10 minutes now, and there's a lot of steam coming out of the purple pot, as you can see. So the pot's ready for the potatoes. While the bacon is cooking, you want to go ahead and wash and peel your potatoes. And then you go and chop them. Make sure you've got a good handy knife. Hold on. That's not a knife. This is a knife. Basically, all my other kitchen knives are really dull right now, so rather than going ahead and sharpening them, I'm going to go ahead and use the Bowie knife instead. So now we're going to chop the potatoes. I guess this one's pretty dull too. Sometimes you just can't seem to win. See, you want the potatoes in a small bite size, like kind of like this, maybe a little bit smaller. And you don't really need to watch me chop all these potatoes, so I'll just skip forward to the next step. When your potatoes are chopped, it's time to go ahead and throw them in the boiling water. And make sure to keep an eye on your bacon. Probably every few minutes or so, stir it up. Yeah, I got a little bit of bacon here that's stuck to the bottom. So just kind of stir it up. And let everything keep cooking for a few more minutes. With the bacon, just wait till it's crispy. With the potatoes, every few minutes or every once in a while, pull one out and try and put a fork through it. If it sticks into the fork, then it's not done yet. If it slides out, no problem, then your potatoes are ready. The bacon is nice and crispy now, so it's time to take it off the stove and drain the grease. I suppose you could put the grease in the chowder if you wanted to for extra flavor, but I don't know. I don't like the idea of eating all that lard. If you want to use that grease though, Grant Thompson has a pretty cool video on how to make soap out of it, so I'll leave an annotation for you to check out if you'd like. As for the potatoes, they're still boiling away, so I'll check back in a few minutes. So now we'll pull a potato out, and the fork goes right through it, so these are done and they can be drained now. Now that the potatoes are drained, we can start pouring in our milk. It took 8 cans of milk to get the pot half full. I'm going to go ahead and stop here. If I need to water it down later, I can add a few more cans. Meanwhile, it's time to add some seasoning. So I'll throw in a couple bay leaves. Got some Italian herbs. A little bit of salt, not much. And some pepper. I tend to under-season this if I'm making for a group of people, because if somebody's on a low-salt diet, then it's hard to remove the salt later. Whereas if it's too bland for you, you can spice it up however you like it. So now we're just going to heat up the milk, let that get nice and hot. While the milk is heating up, we can go ahead and throw in our bacon. And give the pot a nice stir. Alright, now that the milk has gotten pretty hot, it's time to thicken it. If you're using flour or cornstarch, you need to wait till the milk is actually boiling. And it's a good idea to mix your thickener with water so it doesn't clump up on you. Since I'm doing the cheap way and using mashed potato mix, I can go ahead and just pour that in right now. Just do it one scoop at a time. So we just thicken it a little bit at a time, add some more potatoes as needed. That might have been a bit much right there. Nah, it's working fine. As I said before with the mashed potato mix, that's as however thick it gets while it's hot is how thick it'll be when it's cold. Whereas with the flour or the cornstarch, it'll thicken more as it cools off. Yeah, it's getting nice and thick now. That's pretty close. I'll do one more scoop and then that should be enough. Yeah, that was a little bit much, but as I said before, I can water it down with some more milk. I've got plenty of room in the pot. So next I will dump in our potato chunks. Yeah, that's looking nice and thick now. One more can ought to do it. Plus, this makes a bigger batch, so it'll last longer. Turn up the temperature a little bit because that room temperature milk's going to cool it off a little. That's about a good consistency right there. I wish I had had a second pack of bacon, but other than that, this is turning out pretty good so far. And finally, we pour in the clams. Don't drain it first. The clam juice actually helps add flavor to it. In fact, I completely forgot about the clam juice. That's going to really water it down. Go figure. So guess what that means? Yay! More potato flour. Or potato powder or whatever. More thickener. Now the reason we do the clams last is if you cook them too long, they get kind of rubbery. So just keep mixing the powder in until it's well mixed, of course. Then you just let it set on your stove and heat up until it's warm enough to serve. And that's pretty much how I make clam chowder.